Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast. Now, I did not do a podcast last Monday because it was April Fool's Day, and I kind of have a bit of an unwritten policy to not get out on the internet on April Fool's Day. There's already enough misinformation out on the internet, in my opinion, that I don't need to go out on the day when misinformation is sort of celebrated. In fact, it kind of screws up my Google News feed for a few days. I got to keep looking at the date when an article was published just so I know whether or not to believe it. Because some of them, they can be pretty realistic. Which kind of brings me to my first topic, which is sort of keto in the news. I'll explain in a second. But first, I need to make my requisite little political disclaimer here, which is, let's not turn this into a political discussion. I get my news from a number of different sources, so I can kind of get a little bit of bias from every side. This particular news story came from Fox News, and it is, woman rushed to hospital for life-saving procedure after eating pork rinds. Now, as much as I'd love to believe that everybody out there are critical thinkers, and nobody just looks at a headline and suddenly draws a bunch of conclusions, I kind of know otherwise. So how many people do you think looked at this headline and simply went, oh, pork rinds. People on keto eat pork rinds, probably had some sort of fat makes you fat, clog up your arteries, had a stroke, had a heart attack. That's how they fill out the story. Keto is bad, right? But if you actually look at the story, a woman choked on a nail that was in a pork rind. Now, first of all, I don't know how you can be chewing a pork rind and not recognize that there's a nail in there. I'm not talking a fingernail, I'm talking a pound nail was in her pork rinds. Now, furthermore, she's in Peru, not even the United States. Now, I'm not saying that that makes it less of a bad thing, but it boggles my mind that this is even newsworthy. Were it not for, and this is the conspiracy theorist in me kind of coming out, I try and keep that part of me undercover, but why? Why would you have an article like this other than to sort of say, pork rinds, sort of associated with keto, life-saving procedure, and create this fairly misleading headline? I said before that I get my news from a number of different sources, and it's an interesting sort of thing. You can get out onto CNN.com and then FoxNews.com, and there's really no overlap in stories. And if there is a similar story, it's told from two completely different perspectives. The one thing I find, though, is it seems that almost all news sources, regardless of whether they're on the left or the right, have this same sort of disdain for keto. Anytime there's an article that is remotely related to keto, whether it's intermittent fasting or sweeteners, you name it, it all comes down to keto is bad. And it's frustrating. But on top of that, then you get a headline like this one that just it's ridiculous and silly. And I'll be curious to know how many of you saw this article and how many of you maybe had friends or relatives that saw the article and immediately jumped to the conclusion and told you pork rinds are bad. Let me know down in the comments below. For the next topic, I want to talk about evolving beliefs. It was probably a month or so before I did my interview with Dr. Ken Berry. I had seen Dr. Ken Berry on Dr. Eric Westman's show, and one of the things that Dr. Berry said, and I love it, it's one of the most self-aware quotes I've ever heard. He said, "This is what I think I believe currently." I don't remember the specific topic, but he said that, and I wish more people were like that. Everybody seems to know. They know they're right, and they want to tell you they're right, and they want to hear back that they're right, and they want to argue that they're right. They don't want to find out, maybe, that they were wrong so that they can become right. They just want to believe that they're right. And that's not the way we should go through life. We should go through life recognizing this is maybe true, it's what I believe, and it's what I believe currently, but I'm open to the possibility that I'm wrong. And one of the things I try and do on this channel is be very pragmatic about keto and ingredients. So there are a lot of people that get very worked up about certain ingredients, and I think they get worked up because certain other content creators and influencers on the internet tell them to be worked up about ingredients. One of which is maltodextrin. And I would never go out and try and consume something that's 90% maltodextrin. But if I'm looking at the ingredients on a given package of something, like beef broth is a great example, because very often maltodextrin is added to highly concentrated products to make it disperse more easily and to be able to measure it more easily. And I use some beef broth in my cottage cheese recipe, my cottage cheese cracker recipe, the one for the French onion soup or French onion cracker. And I calculated how much maltodextrin was in each cracker. And it was, I believe, 0.04 grams. So like nothing, essentially nothing. I'm not going to get worked up about essentially nothing. The dose makes the poison. At least that's what I think, I believe currently. So as I look at ingredients, there are certain things that I know affect me personally that I'm going to avoid. I know that the highly processed seed oils, things like soybean oil, vegetable oil, corn oil, canola oil, these are things that I avoid because they cause me inflammation. So for me, it's a true statement. These are bad ingredients and I'm going to avoid them. Another belief that I've had historically, and it's kind of evolved a little bit, is I have no desire to go carnivore. Now I say it's evolved a little bit. I used to be, I wouldn't say anti-carnivore, but there was no appeal to carnivore for me because I enjoy food. I'm a foodie. I like creating food, and I just felt that it was very restrictive. But I found that the longer I've been on keto, the closer I'm starting to work my way towards keto. I would say on most days, you would probably categorize me as ketovore. And if I saw some real health benefits to going pure carnivore, maybe I would do it. I'm still in the evolution of the belief. But I think if I did it, it would probably signal the end of the Serious Keto channel, because I wouldn't be doing a whole lot of cooking videos or product reviews or anything like that. And there's only so many topics you can cover in a podcast that are carnivore. So it's possible that my beliefs may change at some point and I may decide that carnivore is the way to go. And I know that my beliefs can change because I used to, at one time, be bought into the whole fat makes you fat thing. Avoid fat. I bought all kinds of fat-free products. I had gotten a little bit overweight in college and just went fat-free. I was eating bagels and I would put the fat-free cottage cheese on and turkey, and I would eat those every day and couldn't figure out why I wasn't losing weight. I was doing the right thing. I was going fat-free. I remember one time being really, really proud of a bean burrito I made because it was a fat-free tortilla, fat-free refried beans, fat-free cheddar cheese, fat-free sour cream, and it did not taste very good at all. But beyond that, there was a time where I really thought carbs were the ultimate fuel. This is the energy. I would go to the General Nutrition Center or any other health food store that had big tubs of powder, and I would actually buy maltodextrin powder. And I would mix it into my protein shakes, a couple of big scoops of maltodextrin, because you need that fuel, you need that energy. So anyhow, this is just my long way of saying beliefs evolve. There are certain things I believe currently. Those beliefs may change. And I hope that more people can recognize that very often what they know is just what they believe. Anyhow, I love that quote from Dr. Barry, and I use it all the time now, and hopefully more people will as well. For the second half of this podcast, I would like to talk about keto products and keto labeling. Typically, once a week, so about a third of my videos, are reviews on keto products. I enjoy making food and I try and share that passion with all of you, but I recognize that not everybody else has that passion or the aptitude or the time, and for them, keto products may be the difference between being able to stay keto or fall off the wagon. The problem is determining which products truly are keto. What does any of this labeling mean? When something says keto, does it mean that it's keto? Or if it's keto friendly, what does that mean? I think that is about as meaningless as you can get. I mean, if I said I'm tree friendly, what does that mean? Does that mean I have friends that are trees? Does that mean I'm out planting trees? Does that mean I'm not out cutting down trees? What does it mean? It means nothing. Just like keto friendly, in my opinion, this is what I think I believe currently, in my opinion, means nothing. What about certification, though? When you see that stamp that says keto certified or ketogenic certified, does that mean anything? So I started investigating and looking at the standards for those two certifications. And that's what I'm going to share right now. So when you see keto certified, and that's the little round, it just says keto certified, and you've got a circle around it. Here are the standards to be keto certified. Meal and meal replacement products must not contain more than 10 grams of net or effective carbohydrates per serving. For products which contain largely whole, unprocessed ingredients or ingredients with reduced digestibility, a 12% net carbohydrate per serving is permissible for use of the keto certified label. Snack products must not contain more than 6 grams of net or effective carbohydrates per serving. Similar to meal replacements, if those products contain largely unprocessed ingredients or ingredients with reduced digestibility, an 8-gram net carbohydrate serving is permissible. Condiments may not contain more than 6 grams of net or effective carbohydrates as well. Again, if there is reduced digestibility or largely unprocessed ingredients, an 8-gram net carbohydrate per serving is allowed. 8 grams of net carbohydrates in a condiment, that strikes me as kind of high. Just my opinion. Then there are some disallowed ingredients. Partially hydrogenated trans fats such as soybean, margarine, and vegetable oils, alcohol ketone bodies and ketone esters, artificial sweeteners such as saccharin, cyclamate, acesulfame, aspartame, sucralose, corn syrups, and maltitol. Artificial flavors are not allowed in the keto certified standards. So I don't know that I fully agree with disallowed ingredients. I mean, I don't want any sort of trans fats or highly processed oils in my food, but technically you could still have them. I mean, it's not going to knock you out of ketosis, but I'm glad though that they are looking at cleaner ingredients. In terms of the sweeteners, I'm a little bit torn. It's my belief that acesulfame and aspartame, not great stuff. I don't really have an issue with sucralose or with saccharin. I feel that the studies around those are kind of misleading. Now, what's interesting, though, is I was looking at an older packet of Keto Chow, and it had the Keto Certified label on it, even though Keto Chow has sucralose in it. The newer packages do not have it, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Bear from Keto Chow opines on that or tells me what happened with that down in the comments below. The big issue, so far as I can tell with Keto Certified, is it is self-reported. So you sign up to get the label that you can use on your product, and you send them the list of ingredients and the nutrition facts that you calculated. So far as I can tell, there's no system of testing or verification, which to me then makes the Keto Certified label largely irrelevant, in my opinion. Ketogenic Certified, this is the rectangular label, does seem to have a little bit more going for it. First off, they do testing. They test the products for blood glucose and ketone impact. That, I think, is pretty huge. Further, the criteria to be ketogenic certified and to get that label, it must not contain any sugar alcohols that are known to have a metabolic impact, including but not limited to maltitol and sorbitol. So those Hershey's chocolates that I tried last week, those would not qualify. Sugar alcohols such as erythritol are acceptable up to 15 grams. The total added sugar content may not exceed 2 grams. There is a minimum 1-to-1 macronutrient ratio requirement of 1 gram of fat for every 1 gram of protein and carbohydrates. Furthermore, the use of highly inflammatory oils is prohibited. Thumbs up there. All vegetable oils must contain a minimum 2-to-1 ratio of omega-3s plus omega-9s to omega-6s. The acceptable testing range is 10% of the control condition. They also have a certification for ketogenic friendly. And in order for a product to be considered ketogenic certified friendly, it must not contain an added sugar content that exceeds 4 grams. Additionally, the sugar alcohol content may not exceed 20 grams. They also have a slightly reduced criteria for the oils. All oils must contain a 1-to-1 ratio, instead of 2-to-1 ratio, of omega-3s plus omega-9s to omega-6s. The acceptable testing range is 20% of the control condition. So based on all of this, my belief is only changed ever so slightly. First of all, I believe that just saying keto on a product means nothing. Saying keto-friendly on a product means nothing. A product being listed as keto certified may mean something. It depends on the trustworthiness of the manufacturer. Ketogenic friendly, however, now I have a bit more faith in that labeling. Additionally, Dr. Ryan Lowry is associated with Ketogenic.com, and so far, at least in my experience, I found him to be a pretty reliable guy. And this brings me back to another one of my favorite quotes from another one of my favorite people, Dr. Eric Westman. And I'll probably just wind up paraphrasing the quote, so don't take it as this is the exact quote. But he said, "There is no such thing as a keto food or keto ingredient. Keto is a metabolic state. You are either in ketosis or you're not in ketosis. And being in a metabolic state of ketosis is largely an individual thing. So it's very hard to put these strict rules around how many total carbs can you have? How many net carbs can you have? Can you eat this? Can you eat that?" The answer is, are you in ketosis? Now, there are some great guidelines in terms of the amount of carbs you can eat or the foods that you can eat. But remember, these are guidelines. They aren't rules, and it's nobody's job to enforce them as rules, except for things we find affect our own selves. So this is why I get mildly irritated with the keto police. Also because I think that, similar to the phrase, you should never say something behind someone's back that you wouldn't say to their face, I don't think you should say something to someone on the internet that you wouldn't say to them in person. If you were at a restaurant and someone was eating something completely non-keto, completely non-healthy, it's French fries cooked in canola oil, for example, you're not going to walk over to their table and get up in their grill about what they're eating and how bad it is for them. Tend to your own business. Look after yourself. Learn what affects you in terms of your blood glucose and your ketones, and customize your keto accordingly. That's pragmatic. And that is what I believe currently. But that is going to be it for this podcast. I'm thinking maybe next week I might dedicate an entire podcast to the topic of net carbs versus total carbs, because I get that question an awful lot. But as always, thanks for spending a little bit of time with me. Have a great day. Go check out the eclipse. Thanks for watching.